Come, let us review forceful practice instructions and then meditate like a Jedi. I'd like to recite for you Nerdy Nirvana, a concise meditation manual based upon the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, and Vajra's 5 treatises. You're welcome to read along with me. If you're on the clock app, you're welcome to join me on the Tube app so you can see the text as well as my goofy face. If you can see both the text and my goofy face, you're in the right place. There's no need for fear of missing out. Let's begin with the first noble truth of stress, or dukkha. From a certain point of view, stress is anything that circumstantially, physically, interpersonally, or mentally inhibits our ability to survive and thrive as a species, such as not receiving what we need when we need it for as long as we need it, or similarly enduring that which is harmful. We continue with the second noble truth of cause or exacerbation, samudaya. We evolved a collection of instincts to survive those stress wars. These are fine when used sparingly, but since the Neolithic Revolution, we have been... One moment. These are fine when used sparingly, but since the advent of proto-capitalism during the Neolithic Revolution, we have been forced to overuse them. Enslaved by the fleeting, short-term pleasures of our dopamine-oriented reward system, we've become defined by our controlling tendencies. You know what? I think there's a boo-boo here. Let's see what's going on. Okay, one moment. Okay, just to be safe. Let's continue, and thank you for your patience. And as such, overfocus, overanalyze, and overbelieve to such a degree that we exhaust our dorsolateral and medial prefrontal cortex, which triggers our amygdala, the seat of anxiety and aggression, causing our tendencies to be rigid, fearful, superstitious, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel to be the guiding light by which we needlessly squander our brief human lives. Let's continue now with the third noble truth of cessation or liberation, nirodha. The fulfillment for which we yearn could only be delivered by our oxytocin-oriented system that rewards our tendencies to be flexible, loving, rational, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Let's continue with the fourth noble truth, the Eightfold Path, or Marga. This meaningful path of enlightenment has 8 folds. Let's forsake the exhausting habit of actively fighting against our own autonomic nervous system, the hardware of our Buddha nature, and instead with it, cooperate. By silently and mentally reciting the demonstrative pronoun this each time, we feel our chest subtly swell as we inhale. And by silently and mentally reciting the verb rest, each time we feel our chest subtly sink as gently we exhale. Let's explore how this works. Which brings us to the 7th fold, mindfulness, or sati. During each inhalation, spontaneous and uncontrived, the sympathetic nervous system, centered in the middle bit of our spinal cord, is already wired to vulnerably, passively, viscerally, randomly, and fleetingly notice our perceptions. The sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, and scents of the 4 bases of mindfulness, the circumstantial, physical, interpersonal, and mental, including our abilities to emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. Instead of indulging our controlling tendencies to shove at things like circumstantial danger, physical pain, emotional scorn, and mental shame, as well as reach for things like circumstantial safety, physical bliss, interpersonal praise, and mental fame, let us choose instead to be vulnerable to all that we experience, from the external to the internal, from the physical to the mental, from the pleasurable to the painful, from the interesting to the boring, from the glorious to the grotesque. This brings us to the eightfold meditation, also known as samadhi or passaddhi. What are we to do with all that we notice? Simple. With every exhalation, the top bit and the bottom bit of that same spinal cord, known together as our parasympathetic nervous system, is already wired to rest in such a manner that which we noticed during our previous inhalation could fleetingly feel less stressful, or dukkha, less permanent, or anicca, less defining, or anatta, and even as non-graspable as a vast empty void, sunnata. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although could look tantalizing to the eye, could feel non-graspable to the hand. Until, of course, the next inhalation, when the cycle begins afresh, and, like the ticking pendulum of a grandfather clock, we continue to notice mind's antics and rest in its non-graspable nature. Let's take a quick technical aside with Bengali crease canting. The process of acquiring a new skill can make us feel anxious and even feel that we, like a contemplative Rip Van Winkle, could sit and meditate only to open our eyes and find that a century has passed us by. Some have found that the best way to non-neurotically time our meditation is to therefore practice a variation of Bengali crease counting. It could take more than 1 minute to count 16 inhalations by touching the tip of our right thumb to the creases and tips of its little, ring, middle, and index fingers. It could take more than 20 minutes to count 16 sets of 16 inhalations each by touching the tip of our left thumb to the creases and tips of its little, ring, middle, and index fingers. It could take more than an hour to gather 3 collections of 16 sets of 16 inhalations each. By using the tip of our left middle finger to support our right middle finger's larger or lower knuckle, as we gather our first 16 or 16 sets of 16 inhalations, then support its middle knuckle while gathering our second collection of 16 sets of 16 inhalations. And eventually support its very small upper knuckle as we gather our third collection of 16 sets of 16 inhalations. All while resting both hands palms up in our lap. Remember, that which at first feels awkward and overwhelming could be mastered if practiced once every 12 hours after only a week or so. Having explored the Four Noble Truths' need for mindfulness and meditation, as well as their actual processes and supportive techniques, we can now consider how the authentic practice of this noticing and resting could cause us to effortlessly, automatically, and efficiently master the remaining 6 folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path of Enlightenment. Let us begin with the first fold of wisdom, also known as Pana or Ditti. As we sit and breathe and notice and rest, all that we notice could fleetingly and effortlessly come to feel impermanent, evanescent, and far too subject to change to ever be permanently grasped. The more we sit and breathe and notice and rest, the more our anxious and aggressive amygdala is calmed, and the more our empathetic anterior cingulate gyrus is gently stimulated, so marinating our experience of the 4 bases of mindfulness that mentally our intentions are spontaneously kinder, interpersonally our utterances are naturally kinder, Physically, our conduct is automatically kinder, and circumstantially, our commerce is impulsively kinder, thus forging a heaven on earth, eventually a peaceful death, and even an auspicious rebirth, figuratively, if not literally. This brings us to the sixth fold. The more we notice mind's antics and rest in its non-graspable nature, the more we automatically experience the effortless effort, expedient means, flow state, or simply wu wei that comes not from calculated contrivance, nor from wild scatterness, but instead from love's deeply centered spontaneity. Let us transcend our elitist conditioning to consider the possibility that enlightenment is merely mastery of this eightfold path. As children, the skills to use the toilet, brush our teeth, tie our shoes, and ride a bike felt insurmountable. And yet, with time and effort and tears, we so mastered these skills that we came to perform them spontaneously, habitually, easily, and effectively. Similarly, enlightenment's eightfold path could likewise be mastered. Perhaps that is why, in the second and final passage of his discourse on the four bases of mindfulness, the Buddha is said to have explained that one moment. The Buddha is said to have explained that one could master this path in as suddenly as 7 days. No, doing so does not mean we'll never experience the presence of any pain or any craving ever again. It simply means we will have mastered the Buddha's figurative tool chest, with which we could sustainably transcend the tyranny of each sling and arrow of outrageous fortune. So, once every No, doing so does not mean that we'll never experience the presence of any pain or any craving ever again. It simply means we will have mastered the Buddha's figurative tool chest, with which we could sustainably transcend the tyranny of each sling and arrow of outrageous fortune exerted over our choices, utterances, and deeds. So, once every 12 hours or so, may we sit and breathe and notice and rest. Having completed our opening recitation, we could now shift gears. It is Obi-Wan Kenobi early Wednesday morning, at least it is here in Southern California. Together, let us meditate like a Jedi after about 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is the Dzogchen Semde Lama, Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I have harnessed my autistic special interests as well as my ADHD hyperfocus to spend about 8 hours a day, almost every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of meditation so that I can become your personal, nerdy, neurodivergent guide to nirvana. Welcome, my friends, to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. Remember, the essence of mindfulness is to silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during each inhalation, and the essence of meditation is for us to silently and mentally recite the one-syllable verb rest during each exhalation. We could rest the tip of our left thumb upon the lower set of creases of our left little finger, and thus keep track of our first set of 16 inhalations. Now let us rest this left hand palms up in our lap. Every time we silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this during our inhalation, we can advance our right thumb up the creases and tips of each of its 4 fingers. Let us practice this together right now, beginning with the little finger. Having run out of places upon which to rest my right thumb, I can now advance my left thumb up to the second crease of its little finger. And now you get the visceral idea of how to keep track of 16 sets of 16 inhalations. To keep track of our first of 3 collections of 16 sets of 16 inhalations, let us rest the great knuckle at the base of our right middle finger upon the tip of our left middle finger, palms up in our lap. Remember, that which is confusing is the overwhelm of confusion is defeated by repetition. Come meditate with me once every 12 hours, and within a week or two, this system you could master. As we rest as we relax into our exhalation, whatever memories, painful or pleasurable, we might have noticed during our previous inhalation, could feel as if they were melting into the simplicity of just mental energy. You have taken your first step into a much larger world. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 11 hours, I would very much like to return to lead today's second session of Meditating Like a Jedi. And if you are as geeky as me, may the Force be with you always.